Welcome to the story of one of history's earliest civilizations. Welcome to ancient Egypt. Similar to many of the world's most historic communities, the Egyptian society was built around the fertile grounds of a large river. And to Egypt, this was the Nile. With any population, the foundation for a society begins with the social system and classes. At the bottom of the pyramid, we have the slaves, often captives of war. They were sold to the wealthy to perform manual labor, similar to a serf in medieval Europe, aiding in large-scale projects such as the construction of the pyramids. The middle of the pyramid consists of the common man, often farmers, artisans, or merchants. They produce and sell their own goods to make a living for themselves. Due to their ability to form their own wealth, normal civilians can move up the social pyramid as they attain success, education, and experience. This concept of class mobility is a full departure from the caste system established by the Egyptians' contemporaries in early India. Seated at the top of the social hierarchy, we have the pharaoh, a descendant of the gods. The pharaoh acts as Egypt's political leader and as the national symbol. And as such, he wields the most influence and power throughout the entire nation of Egypt. But, such as any mortal man, even the pharaoh will perish. It is believed that when the pharaoh dies, his eternal spirit known as the Ka continues its reign over Egypt alongside his ancestors and the gods. Continuing with the religious practices of the populace, the gods play an integral part in the lives of all the Egyptian people. The ancient Egyptians were polytheistic. They believed in a religion consisting of more than one deity, the most important of which begins with Egypt's sun god, Ra. The god of the sun and ruler of all the created world, Ra is essentially the chief of the ethereal beings depicted in Egyptian religion. Comparable to Zeus, to the Greeks, or Odin, to the Norse, Ra is the creator of life, and men are merely the cattle of which he leads. Horus, god of light and sky, and the descendant of Ra. Horus was also heavily worshipped by the Egyptian people, believing him to be the commander of the atmosphere. He, alongside Ra, play the most central roles regarding the everyday life of Egypt. Isis, the goddess of motherhood and marriage. The continuation of bloodlines and provision for descendants were key components of Egyptian civilization, and as such, the divine being who held the future generations was to be worshipped by the masses in prayer for fertility and children. Lastly, Osiris, god of death. Osiris is described as the bringer of the end to the mortal life, and as such was important to Egyptian civilization, as death is a paramount concern to all global religions. Death is the final adversary, and the adversary is never bested. So in order to delay death, or to make it merciful, ancient Egyptians prayed to Osiris for a satisfying end. These gods were worshipped in temples which also contained mummified bodies of wealthy elites or members of the pharaoh's council. The pharaoh himself, as a descendant of the gods, is given the grandest of tombs. He, alongside Ra, play the most central roles regarding the everyday life of Egypt. Each tomb was fitted with personal belongings that the deceased had owned and used for everyday life, such as food, water, clothes, and tools. Many of the pharaohs were buried under the pyramids of Giza, awe-inspiring structures that are an anomaly to historians, as the technology to build such large structures did not exist at the time of the ancient Egyptians. Despite previously mentioned labor provided by slaves, cutting and shaping limestone into large blocks, lifting them into their proper place, and bringing them miles upriver from where they were extracted, should have been an impossible task for the ancient Egyptians. But here they stand, even to present day. It is impossible to deny that the construction of the pyramids took an enormous amount of effort, proportional to the overwhelming devotion to the pharaoh and respect for the Ka. Much of what the Egyptians accomplished would have been impossible without the early development of language. The Egyptians used the type of writing called cuneiform. This form started off simplistic and literal. A picture showing a cat is a cat, and a picture of wheat signifies wheat. But this slowly developed into a more complex series of pictures and symbols that would become known as hieroglyphics. This writing would also evolve into a spoken language. Initially, Egyptians would carve these hieroglyphics into stones and walls, but eventually transferred to a material called papyrus, an early form of modern-day paper. It was both lightweight and flexible, making it easily transportable. Commissioned by the pharaoh and other wealthy leaders, art is a highly valued and respected element of Egyptian culture. The intention of such art is typically used to depict the social hierarchy or significance of the gods and the elite above the common man. The hieratic scale is an artistic method in which the powerful are shown to be larger than their subjects, emphasizing the difference in rank. Another easily recognizable trait of the ancient Egyptian art is the repeated use of composite view. This technique shows the body of a human figure facing the viewer, with the face directed to the side. Most of Egyptian art was stylized, meaning that everything in the sculpture or painting had an emphasized significance. This went as thorough as the type of shoes one wore, to the hairstyle they have, and even to the shape of their facial features. Early Egyptian art included three-dimensional forms with such works as sculptures of the gods, animals, and pharaohs. Statues that were one-to-one in scale with their depiction were often used in place of a mummy, as a substitute body for a soul once the organic body had degraded beyond habitation. Towering prism pillars with tapering caps scatter Egyptian society. These obelisks stand in memoriam of the creation of the world, in somber knowledge that even the gods will one day die. primordial chaos. Early Egypt was one of the first advanced civilizations in the world, and its feats still stand today. With aid from the large Nile River, Egyptians could grow their society on fertile land, and due to the many blessings granted by the Nile, Egypt rose to become an international site for rich history and culture. And through the development of their own rulers, class system, language, and religion, Egypt could thrive amongst a struggling new social world.